Hello, everybody. Welcome to Profiling Evil by Mike King. Welcome to choir practice. And for those of you who don't know what choir practice is, in a few moments we'll tell you, or look in the chat, because there are a lot of people here who have been hanging around for a long time and understand what choir practice is. I am so excited about tonight's discussion for a number of reasons. And I want to say, for all of you who are mothers, and I think for all of you who have mothers, which is everyone, I hope that you had a happy Mother's Day yesterday. It was certainly a bittersweet Mother's Day for families like the Morphew family, or the family you're going to meet tonight. But it is something that we want to just always pay tribute to and mention. We really appreciate all your support of Profiling Evil. Those of you who are helping us in Patreon and Venmo and PayPal and through our channel memberships. And if you're a member in our channel memberships, you actually get that opportunity once a month to go live with us and talk. And we spend a lot of time just talking face to face and getting through some of the things that are important to you. So please consider those channel memberships. Frankly, you can get into them for as little as $1.99 a month. And I'll tell you what, it really does support us and help us pull off this thing that we're trying to do here, which is trying to bring good quality content forward. If the back office is listening, I hope they'll pop up our Diet Dr. Pepper benefactor today. There we go, Melody McAtee. Thank you again, Melody. For those of you who don't know, that are new to the channel, I have a prescription for Diet Dr. Pepper, and all of those of you who jump on each week know that it's not an addiction. I just really like the taste. So please keep supporting us that way. We're going to look forward to your super chats tonight and all of your comments. To our mods, thank you, thank you, thank you. It is so great to have you joining in. And I want to get right to my first special guest that I am so excited about. If you have not subscribed to 10 to Life with Annie Elise, you got to do it today, and do it right now while we're talking. And if we can bring in Annie right now, Kellyanne Garber, thank you so much for that kind super chat. And Annie, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, are you kidding? I mean, I think I was on with you a few days ago, and we were talking about a number of different things that were going on, but I just love your insight. I love your fresh things. I love your enthusiasm. It's just great to have you here.
Oh, well, thank you. I am loaded with questions for you, by the way, because ever since we talked last week, I'm like, oh, gotta ask Mike that, and just start jotting things down. Well, so I'm so happy.
We've been talking, you and me, a lot about the West case and some of the twists and turns in that goofy thing. And we'll tackle that one and do it as a show. We've talked about Maya Miliete. I mean, there are so many cases that don't seem to get the attention that they deserve. I think of Lila Cavett in Florida, who relatively undiscussed. And I think what makes that person different than Suzanne Morphew, who we're going to talk about a little bit tonight. And I don't know, I'll ask you as I shout out to Leslie McCure, who just, McGuire, that just joined up. What's the difference? Why is it that some capture our attention, others don't?
Honestly, I don't think that I can nail down a reason to give you. I feel like every single case is equally important. So I feel like, truthfully, it's just sometimes, especially with mainstream media, and when we get notified of cases through our subscribers and our audience, not all of them are brought to our attention, because I'm sure if they were, everybody would be talking more about them. And that's what's so unfortunate, because to your point, so many of these equally important cases are not getting the attention or recognition and awareness that they need. And so I think everybody can do a better job too of just kind of keeping an ear to the ground and trying to bring attention to all of them as much as possible, because this is the platform to do it.
Well, you know, and isn't that really the most beneficial role we can play as YouTube creators, is to bring attention to these cases that are really going quiet?
Absolutely. And it's tough too, I think, sometimes, because on the extremely hyper quiet cases, sometimes it's really hard to gain information and you don't want to have too many conspiracy theories. So then to deliver high quality content and have an actual intelligent conversation with the audience, it's tough because there's not a lot of information out there and you don't want to go on a wild goose chase or lead people down the wrong path. So it's just tough all the way around.
Yeah, and I want to just shout out Love and Coco. Thank you for that kind super sticker, and Tiffany Paddock. Thank you so much. It really is appreciated. Annie, I get to talk a lot to the law enforcement officers. I think just because of my background, and I sometimes get through and get an opportunity to visit with them face to face. Many of them still are kind of grappling with this challenge of the true crime community and what they can bring to the table. And sometimes it isn't positive what we bring to the table. Mm-hmm. Sometimes wild rumors spin off because some YouTuber decides to say, hey, this is what I think's going on. And it creates a life of its own. I mean, what are the responsibilities you feel on your channel?
I mean, personally, that's something that I have learned a lot from just since the beginning, because I'm still less than a year new to YouTube. And so in the beginning, I thought, oh, great, I have a mic. I'm going to share my opinions. I'm going to share what I've heard, what I think, see what other people think. And as you go along with that, you're like, whoa, 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 this is a lot of responsibility. A lot of eyes are on this, and you don't really necessarily know the weight of what it carries. And to your point, I think it's a great tool in some aspects because you're able to crowdsource information or brainstorm different theories and think outside of the box, but then it can very, very quickly go left when either a particular opinion is shared and everybody jumps on that and it's not backed up with fact or any sort of evidence. Or it can also go left because people want to take it into their own hands and hit the pavement and try to uncover clues and, believe that they're a CSI investigator, and it can end up hindering the investigation, harming things down the road. So I feel like there's a very fine line there.
It's interesting to me. I look back, we just hit the 1-year anniversary of Suzanne's disappearance. And it actually was the first case that Profiling Evil that we tackled when we started our channel. And we did it because, number one, it was a neighboring state. It was this successful looking family, a beautiful mom and daughters, and I mean, everything looked idealistic. And yet what we found so amazing was nobody was talking about it. This was a month into it and it wasn't even being discussed. And perhaps it's a little pompous, but we kind of feel like we really got the ball rolling on the Suzanne Morphew case. Much of that credit goes to Chris, who felt like it was a case that we should look into. And then we jumped all in and became acquainted with the family. We became acquainted with the people in Salida. We became involved with the people that are parts of the story. And then this thing just exploded.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I know that there's a lot of content creators out there who don't like covering the same cases as other creators or get territorial, but I have the belief that I think that for all cases in general, the more creators that cover it, the better, because you are getting more eyes on it, more information. And another case where I very rarely ever saw it on YouTube, but even in the news on mainstream media, was the Jennifer Dulos case out of Connecticut. And that was very, very similar. It's, this beautiful family, wealthy family, like has this huge home in Connecticut, and you wouldn't ever expect something to go wrong. It was actually very, very tragic what happened. And then even what happened to Fotis when he took his own life. It's just, you never know what to expect out of these cases. And so I think bringing awareness, as long as you're responsible and careful with it, is absolutely the least we can do in any of it.
Well, you made me think there also is a heavy responsibility, because as these cases become public, when I started my law enforcement career, you found out about cases from maybe the nightly news or the local newspaper. It was after the fact. There was a cool down period before the public became involved. Today, we are sharing laundry immediately. And what family doesn't have dirty laundry? And can you imagine what this does to a family to have to be subjected to this kind of scrutiny from people who in many cases, just want to help. There are some who just want to judge, but holy cow, that's a lot to throw on a family.
I agree. I mean, and it's tough because we've seen social media be a powerful tool for good and to bring, awareness and answers. But then you can definitely see on the opposite side of that, it can harm a lot of people. And I think even to just last week with the Duggar case, the Zoom call for his hearing that was supposed to be on lockdown, nobody was in it. And to your point, it's hitting the news on social media in real time as it's happening. And people were streaming the Zoom call that was supposed to be privately held and that nobody was supposed to have access to, and all of this privileged information from the attorneys. And it gets out there in real time, which can be very dangerous in some aspects of it.
Yeah, amazing. Folks, I'm talking with Annie Elise from 10 to Life. We're talking about Suzanne Morphew, the responsibility in the true crime community in this thing we call public CSI, crowdsourced intelligence, and the responsibility you have in the true crime community as you look and try to find information. And Annie, I don't know if I've ever really shown you this, but we have a thing that we call the evidence room. And if the back office could pull that up while I thank Margaret Lines for joining up. In the evidence room, we give people the opportunity to go in and talk about the cases that they would like to see us follow up on. They can just go to profilingevil.com and then look for evidence room. But there they can submit tips. We've had many tips where people have forwarded things to us that should go directly to law enforcement. The Suzanne Morphew case is a perfect example. There were multiple things that we just simply turned immediately over to police, and we've sat on our hands wishing we could maybe talk a little bit about them just because it would be great for the numbers, but it's not the right thing to do.
Now, I just have to say, this is way more professional looking than the tool I use, which is basically, if you have a tip, shoot me an email to my Gmail account. So I'm loving this setup right here. This with your intro. I know. And you've got Diet Dr. Pepper here. Like, you just got it dialed in.
Well, and shout out everybody in the chat room. Make sure you're shouting out to the back office, because those folks are just awesome and they work their tails off. But Annie, that has been really good. And we found that people that put more effort into the evidence room submission have a greater chance of that being the next case that we're going to follow, because they provide the links that we need, or they provide contacts to family members or other kinds of things where we can really move a case forward. We're actually going to talk about one of those tonight as we do this. But what's been kind of eating at your craw with the Morphew case that maybe we could chat about for a second?
Well, number one, and I know I briefly mentioned I briefly mentioned it before we went live, but I've talked to a lot of people too on my channel about this. I am so curious to know your thoughts on why he is using a public defender, because in my mind, I have all of these theories like, oh, is he trying to save his money and like his liquidity so that he can gift it to his girls should something happen? Is it because he believes all of the evidence they do have is circumstantial because he knows where the body is and knows they will not be able to find it? Like, I have all of these questions, so I would love to chat about that with you.
I find that really interesting for a number of reasons. One is, I think from what I've heard through social media is Barry was a real true crime fanatic. He was listening to these shows and podcasts, figuring out, and it may end up that lent some education to him on things that may come out in the course of the investigation. But in regard to the public defender, once you are placed under arrest, and especially if you're not provided bail where you can get out, it's the state's responsibility to provide you with a public defender. And someone smart is going to look at the caseload that a public defender has, and frankly, they're great attorneys, these public defenders, and they're doing it for the right reason. They really believe that the accused should have every right of protection that they're afforded under the Constitution, but they have incredibly heavy caseloads. So you wonder what quality of public defender do you get when they have so many other cases versus paying somebody a batch of money and then, you know, having them really dedicated toward what your thing is. Now, I would bet money that Barry has an attorney that he's worked with, and there may be some strategy in play. It may be use the public defender for a while for free while you go through discovery and we learn all of the evidence that the state has against you. And then when it starts getting really important, then we'll turn on the dollar clicking machine, and then we'll start charging you. So I wonder if it's a financial decision, because we've seen financial decisions made so often in his case.
Absolutely. It's so funny you say it, because I had that written down. I was like, once the discovery is reviewed, is he going to up his legal team? Because and I don't know what his finances truly look like. I know that there was the number 600,000 liquid being thrown around. I don't know if that's true, if he has less, if he has more, but if you're hiring, you know, a bigwig attorney, that's going to go pretty quickly. So to your point, to have the public defender maybe leading up through the discovery, see what it is that they have, then upping the ante and bringing in a specialist, because I would think too, and just putting myself in Barry's shoes and under the assumption that I'm guilty, if somebody's charging me with first-degree murder, I'm not personally, I don't know that I would want to leave that in the hands of a public defender who is so busy and has so many cases. I would probably want a dedicated specialist and dedicated attorney to defend me, because I'm against first-degree murder charges. Like, I'm not trying to mess around here. And so I just think the strategy is interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch. Somebody put up something saying, hey, public defender, their real job is just to get you the best deal they can do. That might be true in some isolated cases. My experience has been, especially in a like a death penalty case, they're going to work really hard because they want the same kinds of wins, and they want to be able to be known as someone who really puts forward a good defense. And frankly, as a police officer on the other side of the fence, and having worked in prosecutors' offices, you want the defense attorney to be the very best. You want everything challenged. You want to keep this as appeal-free as possible. And having a lazy attorney is just one step closer to an appeal, in my opinion. So,
absolutely. And one of the other things that I was thinking as I was trying to brainstorm what the possibility of this public defender was and what his mentality was, is going just back to, okay, if in his mind he thinks that the evidence is just circumstantial. But then I started thinking, okay, well, the DA is very smart. She is a ball buster, in my opinion, just from hearing her speak and bringing these charges, that I don't believe she would bring these charges against him, body or no body, unless she had strong evidence to where she felt like this was going to stick. So if I were him, I would be scared to death right now.
Yeah. Well, you know, and of course, we've come to know that district attorney well. We had her on our podcast last week. And folks, if you didn't get that, download the podcast and listen to the podcast on Linda Stanley. She was on Choir Practice last week. I have great confidence in what they are going to be able to do there. I'm actually going to try to roll out a little video over lunchtime tomorrow about the what to expect in that arrest affidavit and what kind of things to look for in there, the things that at least I'm looking for. And then it'll be really interesting. Wednesday or Thursday, we'll see that arrest warrant, our arrest affidavit, come up for discussion in the court. I believe that the judge is going to release that affidavit. Now, I think it'll be redacted a lot. There'll probably be, you know, obviously dates of birth and names and other kinds of things redacted. But I don't think it's going to be filled with black lines. I think we're going to see the state's case, and I think it's going to tell us why they feel comfortable in charging with first-degree murder. And that's a big deal. So this is going to be great. Will you come back and we'll talk about this case more?
Oh my gosh, yes, in a heartbeat.
Okay. Well, I want you to hang on for a second. Folks, if you are unaware of what choir practice is, in the 70s, the Los Angeles Police Department had a code word they would send across the radio during shift. Now, police officers would like to get together at the end of the shift at a local pub or someplace and talk about all the horrible things that happened on the shift, the blood and gore they saw and everything else. Some would self-medicate and use that as a chance to kind of settle down. And because it sounded so bad to say, let's go to the bar drinking afterward, they started getting on the police radio somewhere during the shift, and they'd say, hey, everyone, choir practice at 7th and Broadway after the shift. And that's where the word choir practice was born. And so what we use it for here is just a chance to just talk criminal justice and have a great time. And I want to bring on a friend that you're going to now want to call your friend, John Lordan of LordanARTS, and Case Cracked and Brain Scratch. John, how are you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Mike? Hi, Annie.
Please. Hi, nice to meet you.
Annie,
nice to meet you
John.
too.
I was telling our next guest that the two of you were so kind because just having you on this show will potentially expose this new case we're going to talk to about to as many as 250,000 or more people. And I am just so honored that both of you would give up your time tonight to do this. John, tell them quickly about your channel, and then let's bring in the family.
Sure. LordanARTS channel has been around for about 6 years at this point. My main show is called Brain Scratch, which is unsolved mysteries of all kinds, but does lean into unsolved homicides in particular nowadays. I have a missing persons show called Searchlight, and then a show about how cases get solved called Case Cracked. I also work on a few podcasts, one called Crime After Crime and another one called Seriously Mysterious. So that's me in a nutshell.
And you were just the starring role in Netflix's film on the Cecil Hotel with our good friend Judy Ho, and I'm just so thrilled that you do that. Annie, tell everyone a little bit about 10 to Life, who, by the way, John, she just cracked the 100,000 mark.
Yeah, congrats, Annie. It's pretty awesome
Thank
for a
you.
year's work. You kidding me?
Thank you. Thank you so much. It started as 10-minute true crime case recaps, and that's why the name 10 to Life. And then I slowly started learning that there's no way you can fit all of the details into 10 minutes. And so now it's just, true crime cases, trying to bring awareness, talking about solved cases, a little mixed bag of everything.
Well, as a cop, having dealt with these kinds of cases, I like the 60 to Life or more a lot than 10 to Life. But folks, please subscribe to both John and Annie's channel. And to both of you, again, thank you. I am so dang pumped up. This is Law Enforcement Week. It started yesterday. It's a national event every year. It is a presidentially appointed week to look at law enforcement officers, specifically those who die in the line of duty. And sadly, we have last year and this year have averaged one police officer a day who has died in the line of duty as a result of the job. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute, but I want to talk about one amazing police officer, and we'll just have some open discussion. But I'd like to bring in Melissa Skelsey and Jennifer Elise. They are maiden named Wustenhoff. How are you, ladies?
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having us.
Now, we made a mistake and didn't put names on front. So in the light-colored shirt is Melissa. Oh, now we have the names up. Perfect. John, Annie, meet Jen and Melissa.
Hi, John.
Hi, Jen.
Nice to meet you. Hi, Annie.
Nice
Hello.
to meet both of you as well. I checked out the recent episode that you both did, and I just think it's amazing that you've found the community that you were looking for, starting that Facebook page and honoring your father in that way. And I just appreciate that, there's challenges with social media, but man, there's some great things that can happen. And I think that's just another example of it. So thank you for believing in that and reaching out for that.
Thank you for appreciating and noticing that. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, let me set the stage for everyone. In 1990, there was a 19-year veteran of the Suffolk County Police Department. And back then, I want to bring in one more guest here that's going to be with us. And this is Detective Ray Kelly, now retired. Ray worked in the same division in narcotics that your dad worked in, and you all know each other. But Ray and I became friends. Somebody has a little bit of an echo. Maybe Ray, mute yours until you're talking, because I'm getting a little kickback from you. But in 1990, it was February 14th, and Jennifer, let's see, it was Melissa, 14 years old. Is that right? Melissa was
I was 14. Melissa was 10.
Yeah, I was
But it
10.
happened on February 15th.
Well, but I want to talk about the daddy-daughter dance first. So
Yeah,
listen.
Melissa.
So John, Annie, and everyone out there, think about Valentine's Day 1990, and a beautiful little child said to her daddy, I want you to go on a daddy-daughter dance with me and take off work for the night. And Dennis Wustenhoff, who was serving as an undercover narcotics agent in the New York City area. Suffolk County is out near Long Island. So just to kind of help you orient to where you are, said absolutely. And he took off the night to go to a daddy-daughter dance with his daughter. The next morning, the kids went to school like they did every day. And their father went out and started his undercover police car. And unbeknownst to him, a bomb had been secreted under the seat of the vehicle, and it caused mortal wounds to Dennis Wustenhoff, who thankfully was at least at the scene treated and rushed to the hospital. And I want you two to kind of pick it up there, because your life was turned upside down that very moment when police officers started showing up to your school to take you to the hospital in hopes of getting you there to see your dad before he would ultimately pass away. So, Melissa, Jen, why don't you take it in whatever order you want to go in?
I'll let Melissa go first.
Oh, okay. So basically, I mean, it's the worst thing that could possibly happen to you, or you can ever imagine. Your mind is all over the place. You're confused. You're scared. You have the day before that was so special and great, and followed by the most horrific moment in your life. Nothing can ever compare to that. And just your world completely changes. We talk about, I know I have this feeling that my life, I have like these two lives, the before and the after. And I think a lot of people who lost somebody can kind of relate to that, maybe in such a, tragic way like that. I have that before life and now my life now, so that day, horrible. As a 10-year-old, your world just collapses, falls apart. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I was a little older. I was 14. Just a regular pain in the neck teenager. But like my sister said, there was a lot of fear that day and confusion. And for me, I can look back now and realize I basically had no choice but to sort of become adult-like that day. I have the same feeling of like a before daddy was killed and after daddy was killed. So it's almost like my life started at 14, because our new normal was, different. So
Yeah.
here we are 31 years later.
John and Annie, everyone, just please ask each other questions. But Ray, all of a sudden, every narcotics agent in the department had to look over their shoulder, and you were locking down officers' homes. There were protective details. There were snipers that were placed on top of rooftops at the mortuary. I mean, this was a big deal.
Yes, it was, Mike. I was off duty at the time when I first notified about it, and I immediately went to the scene, and I went to the command post and tried to find out what happened. Initially, we really didn't know what happened, or the police department didn't know what happened, and the investigation was going in a couple of different directions. We thought it was a drug dealer that might have did it. But then the investigation ended up taking a turn, and another suspect name came up. And I'll have to say, Dennis was a friend of mine. He helped me get into narcotics, and I worked with him for a number of years. And for me, it was a tragic loss. nothing like the girls experienced, of course. But, you know, like when a cop gets killed, you know, all stops are, you know, pulled. And I know the Suffolk Police Homicide Squad and all the members that were involved did the best they could do at the time.
It's such a ripple effect whenever someone is taken from us. You don't know how far those rings go out. But for someone that's doing public service like that, that ripple, you know, is huge. We've got 2 daughters here that lose their father, who I can't think of any daughter that doesn't think of their father as Superman. But you literally have a dad working in that way where he's catching bad guys. You know that that's part of his makeup. And it makes him almost bigger than life at that point. I'm just really touched. I've started looking into the media on this case. I've started looking into old articles on it. The pictures that they put up at the NBC article with, you know, him with his face all painted up and his family sitting around him. It's just really, really touching. But Ray, I had a question about this in terms of being an undercover officer, knowing that this, I assume, was his unmarked car that was at his home. Is there any protective measures that you guys are trained for in terms of not being tailed home or switching cars somewhere, or like are there new protective measures since what happened to Dennis?
Well, you're always told to look over your shoulder, you know, but at the time, you know, there were no new orders issued about something like this happening. It was a shock, you know, and again, it could happen tomorrow again, somewhere in this country. But it was unfortunate because, you know, there were certain witnesses that came forward and made this investigation go in another direction. And the homicide squad, obviously, you probably know this. I know Mike knows it, but the homicide squad, when there's a homicide, they're sort of directed and work hand in hand with the district attorney's office. And the lead prosecutor, you know, calls a lot of the shots. And that still goes on today, even with this case. So it's a tough situation. And I just hope eventually there's an arrest made. That's the bottom line. And that's why you had said, complimenting these girls about starting this Facebook page. You know, back in 1990, there was no social media going on at all, you know, and today social media is a big, big thing. And it also helps the police in many, many ways. A lot of people won't pick up the phone and make that call, but they'll send a tip via, you know, a post. Yeah. And that's why I got to give the girls a lot of credit for starting that Facebook page also.
The girls gave us permission to show a few pictures. I'd like to bring up a picture of the crime scene that day. And Annie, I don't know what questions you might have as we move this along, but here's Dennis's car after the explosion.
So I think, too, just to echo what John and Ray had said regarding social media, it is such a great idea and move that you guys had made that Facebook page, because we see the power of social media every single day. Right now, there's that case of 5-year-old Sophia Juarez that was a cold case and now is, because of TikTok, out of all things, they're reinvestigating and they have new tips and new leads. So you never really know what's going to become uncovered. And I had a question for you, Ray, too, or for anybody who can answer. And I don't know how much you can really speak on this, but you had mentioned that initially there was a suspect who you thought was a potential drug dealer, and then the case moved in a different direction. Was there ever any evidence, or is there any evidence you can speak to, that it was possibly tied to organized crime, and maybe that's how they were tipped off of the unmarked car, or something that runs a little bit deeper?
Well, I mean, I can answer. Unfortunately, in our situation, our personal life came to light instantly. My mom's personal life, my dad's personal life. So as children, we weren't aware, but my mom was aware that my dad did have an affair. And so there is a prime suspect, and the suspect is the husband of the woman that my dad was having an affair with. He was a Nassau County police officer. Nassau County, where we are, is the neighboring county, so very close to home. And coincidentally worked in emergency services, also known as the bomb squad. So there are personal reasons that, this may have happened. And there is evidence corroborating that. And, that's what we're trying to push forward to see, that we can resolve that.
And I
And
think
how
that
long? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say the date, the fact that the bomb could have been placed on Valentine's Day might actually point towards that as well.
Yeah,
Right.
because he was originally supposed to work on Valentine's Day, which means he would be using that undercover vehicle. And instead, last minute, unplanned or whatever, decided to take off. So whoever, obviously, this was a very targeted event, planned, thought out, planned. So the person obviously had to know his schedule and whatnot. So we truly believe it was meant for that day, but fortunately that day, he was safe, but unfortunately the next day his life was taken. So.
And how much can you guys share about this suspect as far as how long has he been a suspect? What evidence is there against him besides the speculation and the affair? And how long has this been an ongoing thing to where you're trying to gain more evidence to lead to an arrest or conviction or whatever it may turn into?
Melissa, you go ahead. I have to get a candy for a second. I'm choking. I'll be right back. So embarrassing.
I think kind of like Ray had mentioned earlier on, the case had taken a turn. He was an undercover narcotics detective. So naturally, you think that's the first place to look. And that would be the thing that would make the most sense. But once, very quickly finding out, things in his personal life had been going on, which my mom had already, it wasn't like a surprise to her, but I guess to us children, it wasn't something they discussed with us, but until obviously they had to tell us. But, I think from that point on, like my sister said, in my gut, that's who I feel it is, because everything really points to that person, where they worked. They had total motivation for it. The person possibly had made some comments about, if he doesn't stop, I'm going to take his life, things like that. So
this case really is a very, very good circumstantial case, Mike. You know about that. But there's a case that you just spoke about earlier where there's no body that was found, and a lot of it is circumstantial. I guess there's some evidence that hasn't come out, but Dennis's case is about the best circumstantial murder case that I've ever seen. And if the district attorney wasn't afraid of this case being overturned on appeal, there would have been an arrest made many, many years ago. That's what I've been told anyway. And that's the reason why no arrest has been made. But again, back to this Facebook page, the girls are generating so much interest. And that's a good thing. Just the fact that this page was created increased the reward money in this case.
Exactly. Well, there was no reward. That's the thing. Here's the thing: is there was no reward. So I do want to, I know Annie was saying before, like having this platform of social media. I mean, you guys are like way better with that, but like we started small, but like it was kind of like, well, this is the way of the world now. And to be able to have this place to get this information out there and in the correct way, what better way is from the children, from the family themselves to say, hey, listen, this is 31 years ago, but you know what? It feels in our hearts like it was yesterday. And 31 years, wow, what do you mean 31 years? How am I even older than 31 years old, but it just feels so new and fresh for us every single day. And just how could we give up, and why not take advantage of this type of platform to get that information out there? And because of that, there was no reward until recently, until we have to put the pressure on them a little bit and get this out there. And why is this not being talked about? Why are we not, I just feel that responsibility to do that. There's so many cases that are not spoken about, not at the fault of anyone, but to just think about it. Even 25 years ago, I mean, there wasn't any of this for families to have your opportunity to speak out. You like you said earlier, you hear about crimes and murders, and even smaller crimes. You hear about it in the news, and that's it. And the reporter reports it. Maybe they get the information right, maybe they don't, and that's it. Move on. If it's a bigger crime, maybe it lasts a little longer. But after that, no one talks about it, and certainly not the family. And we're the ones that have to live with it all this time. So,
an unfortunate thing, Mike, that just happened is the police commissioner just changed in Suffolk County. She has left and taken another job somewhere. So the new commissioner, unless it's somebody who's from within the department and is familiar with the case, it's almost like it's got to start all over again within the police department.
Exactly.
That's what we have to do every few years.
But again,
to kind of go through the whole process, and I get it. People, change jobs, and it's going to happen, and you have to re-explain. But it's just almost this time, I'm like, I'm not like, there's a level of frustration at this point, because it's like, why are we like starting from square one again? So this time feels a little different, though. I will say that it's right. I think because of this whole social media platform opportunity and having these opportunities to speak with you all, I think that is keeping it more in the forefront. So we don't have to kind of start from square one again.
Am I correct that the FBI involvement is kind of recent as well, right? Is that only a year or so?
Yes, that's very, because of all this and putting the pressure on and maybe annoying people a little bit, and that's okay if it takes annoying people and becoming a little bit known, then that's what I'll sacrifice to get that press them a little harder. And what, the FBI is involved, and we I can really say they're active.
Yeah.
What's that, Jen?
No, I was just saying we have knowledge that they are in fact actively working on it. So at least that's a step in the right direction this late in the game. Yeah. This is something we wanted years and years ago, and we just basically had to harass people until they, listen to us. And,
I just want to answer
Mike, you were talking about it being Police Week. I went down to Washington, D.C. during Police Week in 2010, and it was very emotional for me because I had went to the wall, and I scratched Dennis's name on that wall, and obviously it brought tears to my eyes. But for the people who have never been to the Law Enforcement Memorial in Washington, D.C., they should go down there, because they'll realize how many officers have lost their lives trying to protect them. And even cops, a lot of cops haven't been there, and they should go, because it's just an eye-opening experience, as you know, Mike.
You're right. It is incredibly emotional to be there, especially if you have friends whose names on the wall, and I have 3 friends who are on that wall as well. Folks, we're talking to Jen and Melissa Wustenhoff, Jen Elise, and Jen Skelsey, and no, yeah, I got it right. Jen Elise,
Yeah.
Melissa Skelsey, and Ray
Yeah.
Kelly, a former partner in the narcotics unit with their father, Dennis Wustenhoff, who was murdered on February 15th, 1990. This undercover narcotics agent, after taking his beautiful daughter, Melissa, to a dance the next morning, went out to his police car, and when he started it, a bomb was ignited that ultimately, a few hours later, took his life. The girls were rushed to the hospital. Code 3, I might say, lights and siren, in probably one of the scarier rides you've been on in your life, trying to get to the hospital to see your dad before he passed away. And sadly, you didn't get that benefit. What's unfolded in the last 31 years is remarkable, because a suspect is a very strong suspect is named in the case. It, as Ray has said, is a circumstantial evidence case, and it requires the courage of the district attorney to step forward and file that case. And thankfully, these 2 beautiful women stepped forward and said, this is not enough, and started a Facebook page. And we just showed that Facebook page. It's called Justice for Dennis Wustenhoff, and we would encourage you all to go and sign up on that page and help them in this cause. But in addition to that, their family has continued on, and they have a brother who cannot appear, was not given permission to appear on the show tonight, but he is a Suffolk County police officer, as is his wife. But something really special happened. Jen, maybe you could share that with John and with Annie and this group of people who are listening.
Sure. As Mike mentioned, my brother, Kevin, would have loved to have been here, by the way. So he sends everyone his love. He is a police officer here in the same county. And a few years back, he was able to change his badge. And now he wears the badge of my dad. And it's not just my dad's badge number. He wears my dad's actual badge.
Wow.
So, you know, as the family, we think that's pretty cool. You know, we're really proud of him, and we feel proud that he can wear my dad's badge because, you know, my dad's always looking over him real close. So
Let's pull up this picture of Kevin and his wife and wearing your dad's badge. What is it? I can't remember the number, 2213 or something?
2218. And that's the badge right there. Yep. And that's his wife, Jamie. And
Yeah. How neat. Some people have asked, Melissa, maybe you can answer this. How's your mom, Fran, doing?
You know, I guess as good as she can do. I mean, I don't want to say she's not happy or anything. It's just something that's very, very difficult for her, that she kind of always carries this, because not only, you know, she, the wife, and lost her husband in a horrific way, she then had to take care of these 3 young children and have to explain to them, and, you know, why something like this happened, and kind of be there, you know, for us through the years. And to be honest, she's the greatest person you could ever meet. I always say she's the real hero in this tragedy. Yes, you know, our father is a hero, but she, you know, he's our hero in heaven. She's our hero on earth, because I don't know where we would be without her. And I'm sure I'm speaking for my brother and my sister. I just cannot explain. She is the nicest, most giving, caring person you could ever meet, and she would do anything, and she got us through this. I mean, it could have been even worse tragedy afterwards. We could have turned out really crazy. We're like normal crazy, but not like crazy. So, she's doing well.
Yeah.
She's happy. We all
Yeah.
live pretty much near each other. She has a bunch of grandchildren, and she's doing really well. So,
I mean, in retrospect, if now that I'm an adult, I can appreciate her perspective a little bit. At the time, she was 38 years old. So, it's hard to imagine that's really young. I mean, my dad was young. He was 41. But, when it's happening and you're the child and your parents just automatically feel much older. But in retrospect, it happens to to become a widow in that way. And then, like my sister said, I don't even know. I don't know if I could have done it, but she just womaned up and took care of us. And I don't think there is anyone else on the earth that could have done it. So she's probably crying somewhere right now watching this.
Well, I'm sure she's very proud, as is your father. Annie, John, one of the things that I am amazed with still is that there is a good suspect in this case. There's life being breathed in by the FBI stepping in. But what these women are doing and what we as a community, both you and Annie and all of our friends out there to bring this further to light, I think is huge.
Yeah, I just wanted to. Oh, sorry, Annie. Go ahead.
Go, John. I'll go after.
Well, I was just going to say to Mike's point. Seeing the coverage that you did on this case previously, Mike, I started already jumping into it and doing research. And a case from that time frame is pretty tough in terms of internet research, but thankfully, there are tons of newspaper articles out there that I'm finding on it. So, Melissa, Jen, Ray, if you guys will help me, I will certainly do a feature on my channel about this case as well. I've got some very specific questions and kind of a very specific approach that I want to take with it to try to help you guys hopefully move things forward and raise exposure on this. I also just wanted to take one moment real quick on kind of piggybacking on Ray's comment about the memorial. Here's actually a picture of it in my window right now. And they also have a virtual version of this that you can go to, heroesliveforever.com. And up on my page right now is Dennis's page at heroesliveforever.com. Right now, because of what's going on with this week being special for trying to show support for law enforcement, they're also doing a virtual candlelight vigil.
Right.
Where you can make a donation. Looks like they're trying to raise $100,000. They're already at over $20,000. It's called United by Light. And earlier today, I stopped here and I made a donation specifically for Dennis. And there's now a memorial page for him in that virtual ceremony. In honor of the service Dennis Wustenhoff provided to his community and the search for justice that his family continues to this day, 3 decades after his end of watch. Please consider supporting their efforts. And I put the Facebook link in there for you guys too. But
wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much.
It's really nice.
Really
thank you.
Nice. Yes. Thank you.
You got it.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
Annie?
Yeah, I did. I am sorry. I just had a couple of questions before we wrap up here because I know that you were leading that direction. But I wanted to just ask you guys, and again, I don't know how much you can speak on this, but they all tie together, these 3 questions. 1, is the main suspect still an active cop? 2, is he still with his wife? And then 3, did that wife ever go in for questioning and did she give any useful information?
So basically, yes, I was actually gonna bring that up because somebody earlier had asked a question about where is this perp now. And I think that's really important to talk about because he's retired. He got to nicely retire and collect his pension and all that good stuff. And he walks around freely. That's like that's the missing piece here is. And it's really important because, we have all this pain and suffering, but there's still somebody out there's a murderer out there, could be next to you, could be, at your kid's soccer game, you know, watching his grandchild, could be standing right next to you, a killer that murdered somebody in a horrific way. He is still with that woman. She's probably scared to death for her life. And as far as I know, she's just as protected as he is as far as questioning goes.
Wow.
Yeah, he very much lawyered up immediately.
Right away.
And he to this day,
and that says a lot.
To this day, he makes sure that the police department is aware that he still has the lawyer on retainer. So
Now I can't help but wonder with that, if she is still in a circumstance where she's under his thumb or she's afraid of him and she couldn't ever speak out before or share any information. I wonder now if, because you both are bringing so much more attention to this case and anonymous tips will be rolling in, if she somehow can either give an anonymous tip or through the grapevine give information, because it would be a little bit more of a wider net and a broader audience, rather than, 30 years ago where he would probably immediately know where that information is coming from.
I feel in my heart that there will be an arrest in this case. I don't know when it's going to be, but I really feel that there will be an arrest, and that guy better be watching his shoulder.
I mean, for me personally, I really want that also, but I really just would love it if someone came to me somehow and said, I'm sorry, I did this to you, and I wasn't thinking, I was being selfish. And whether this person was being selfish because they wanted to hurt my dad, they wanted to hurt their wife, but they hurt me and my sister, and my brother, and my mother.
And we're learning a lot of other people. Like, I know, Ray, you mentioned earlier about how, like, it was, devastating to you, but it's more devastating to us. But actually, like, what I'm learning from this whole platform is that people were, so deeply affected by this. It wasn't, it's not just us, and there's all these people. And like, when I hear Ray say that, it's so sad, because, all these people were affected by this. And even just the neighborhood person that heard the explosion, that didn't know him, but their life was turned upside down that day. All these, like you said, I think somebody said before about like the trickle effect and all that. Like, we're just learning all these people that it affected. And yeah, I mean, I would love for somebody to come forward, or it's never too late to say something. And they're, even if it's not the murderer themselves, somebody that has information.
That wife has close friends.
Yep.
And so
it doesn't matter.
Friends and family usually know something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it may be just that little something, but pick up the phone, send it in via the internet, on Facebook, Twitter, whatever. Suffolk County Police has a Twitter account. You don't even have to say your name. And that Crime Stoppers hotline, you don't have to give your name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, people can reach out to us too through the Facebook site, the Justice.
Yeah. Please go to Justice for Dennis Wustenhoff. Also, you were successful in raising at least $30,000 for a reward. And that is just amazing that you've been able to get that kind of financial support. You puff your chest up a little bit there, Ray. There's also a great way to support people. And while he does that, I'm pulling my Superman shirt off here just because you girls know that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. Look at that. Surprise.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
See that? We got to take his shirt off online live.
I told Danny for a strip tease in the show tonight. That's the extent of it. But
back office, it's time to cut Mike off from the Dr. Pepper, please. No more Dr. Pepper.
Oh man, that was a fun surprise.
That was a surprise.
Now, I also had a call from the Washington, D.C. Metro Police Department today. They had lined up someone to go over and scratch your dad's name on the wall, and they're so busy tonight on calls that they couldn't do it, but they sent their love and
Oh,
appreciation to all of you, and to everyone. If you have not been to the wall, you need to get to the memorial and walk there. For law enforcement, it's a pretty sacred place. I'm gonna give you girls the last word, and then I wanted to play a little thing from the president of the International Association of Chiefs of Police.
well, if you don't mind, I saw somebody asked a question, and it was something I wanted to bring up in line with what you were mentioning before about the reward. Currently, the reward is $60,000.
Wow.
So,
Great.
if anyone has a tip that leads to an arrest, potentially you could get up to $60,000. If anyone out there, they were asking about how to support financially, which we so appreciate you for even thinking that way. You can reach out to us through the page, and we can connect you with the right people to commit towards the reward, because if we can pump up that reward, money talks, and money makes people talk. So if that's something you're interested in, we would happily connect you to the right people. I just wanted to mention that. So
That's fantastic. Melissa?
I just want to leave off by letting people know that our father was an amazing man. He was a family man, life of the party. If you knew him, he was a friend for life, according to what my mom says. That she says, if you met him, he was your friend. That's it. He had one little hiccup in his life, in his personal life, and I'm always feeling like I have to defend him, and I know I shouldn't, and I shouldn't have to do that, but he had one little hiccup in his personal life, and that is not what I want to define him as a person, because everything else, he would give his life for you. He took that job, and we have to remember that yes, he was a husband, a son, an uncle, a father, a cousin, but he was also a police officer that went out there every day, putting his life on the line, meeting with people in undercover situations to protect all of you. So although maybe he died in that manner, this person took somebody off the streets that was protecting your lives. So that's kind of all I really wanted to put out there. He wasn't perfect. He was perfect in my eyes, but it really, if you knew him and you go on the page, you could see there's only good things to say about him. Only one person could probably say something bad about him, and that's probably the person that killed him.
Yeah, we try to bring to light, we try to humanize him, so people realize, it's not just a murder case. It's our dad. He's a person. He had a real life. And like my sister said, one mistake doesn't justify killing him, particularly in the heinous way that he died.
Yeah.
So it wasn't
in front of our childhood house, like literally feet from our, living room window. A very horrific way. Somebody wanted to make a point, and he didn't deserve that. Neither did any of us. So,
well, to both of you, we pray as a community that you're finding continued peace, and most importantly, that you're receiving inspiration as you move forward in trying to bring light on this case. To my dear friend Ray Kelly, thanks for your service, Ray, and thanks for joining tonight and for calling me and saying this case has to be talked about tonight. To Annie, Elise of 10 to Life, thank you. How much I appreciate you and your friendship, and I'm so excited for the things that you have coming down, and look forward to you talking about Dennis Wustenhoff. And John, thanks so very much, LordanARTS, and for that commitment to do this as part of one of your shows to get them extended views. there are, again, about one officer per day dying in the United States in the line of duty. And this is a great time as Police Week to be at the wall and to scratch the names of someone you know is a tender situation. Last time I was there, which was last year during Law Enforcement Week, there were some police officers from Southern California. They carried in a car door of a car that a police officer was killed in, and the entire department had signed the door. And then, of course, they had an honor guard there watching that for the entire week. It was touching. But I wanted to leave you all with an image of what the memorial looks like, and this comment from the current president of the International Chiefs of Police Association. And thank you all for taking time to join tonight. Make sure you get to the web or to the Facebook page, and make sure you're subscribing to Annie and to John. But most importantly, make sure you're buying these shirts that you can walk around in, because they need support to keep pushing that reward money up so that somebody will step forward. So let's play that back office, and thank you, everyone.